Aloha, Monica here from monicaswanson.com, and I've brought back my man Dave to join us today. Hey.
Hey.
Thanks for being here. Dave and I have had great intentions of coming on doing a few more videos, and so here we are, and we're excited because we have a topic we think might be interesting to a number of you, and that is the topic of
competitive sports
and kids.
And your kids. Your kids in competitive sports.
Not the Olympics, although we're very into the Olympics right now. But we thought it would be fun to talk about because I do tend to get some emails, messages, and I've heard from enough parents who are maybe a little bit frustrated, a little bit challenged, trying to figure out how to navigate the waters of kids in competitive sports in this ever-changing, crazy world we live in. And so we thought we'd just share a couple of the things that we have been talking about when it comes to kids and competitive sports. So I'll let Dave kick off with a few thoughts.
My first thought is sports is good. We love sports, and competition is good. I think we're wired in general as human beings to want to be competitive and subdue and conquer the earth. I think that was like the first thing that we were supposed to do when we were created. And it's in us in some ways still to want to be out there on a sports field and conquer to different degrees. All of us have different degrees of that impulse, but in general, I think sports is a good thing, and it's good for your kids, and there's so many different benefits that we could talk about, but that's just a start.
We're a little bit competitive.
And we're competitive. I think we're both very competitive.
I grew up doing teams.
She tries to always beat me in basketball, and she says she does beat me in horse, but I
can beat him in basketball. That's
remember when you beat me
I'll
last
remind
year.
you.
Maybe I'm just wanting to not remember.
So I did grow up as a gymnast in my young years, and I've been reliving that, watching the Olympics. But then I did team sports all throughout the younger years, through high school. He was a big soccer guy, soccer player through his college career and a little beyond. But our boys, as many of you know, are surfers and skaters, so it's not really your traditional team sport. It's a little bit different. A couple of our boys do play soccer, and one of them is running cross country as well now. So we're kind of in a different arena when it comes to sports with our kids, but we still remember so well. We've both coached. We get this stuff. So we're going to just dive in and give you a couple thoughts, tips maybe on kind of how to keep your head when your kids are doing team sports.
Yeah. So the first thing I think is to know your kid and know how they're wired. Like I said in the beginning, we're all competitive probably to some degree, but to different degrees. So you need to ask yourself and your kid, and maybe over time you'll figure that out, because they may not even know themselves when they first start out, but just how competitive are they, and what's the best environment for them to compete in? To what degree or level should they be competing? But that's an important question to be asking yourself as you move forward through the process of being in competitive sports.
Not all kids are going to do great.
Yeah, you mean,
like
we all
football.
see the kid who's out there on the field that just doesn't look like they belong there. You know, some kids aren't athletic. That's just not how they're gifted or wired. Or they're not very athletic. So it just depends on the situation. And not all kids are good at all sports. That one kid that I was referencing may be great at something else, you know, some other type of sport. You know, maybe he's not super fast, but he's a great golfer. You know, who knows? But
so it's good to try.
Know your kid and figure things out as you go, but pay attention to your kid's body type. I just thought of that, but your kid's body type, maybe how you're wired, because their genetics is your genetics is theirs, and you know, maybe what you're good at, there's probably some probability they're going to be maybe good at that same thing or not.
But don't be afraid to try new things too. It's good.
Absolutely.
Like, he tried hard to get our boys to play soccer when they were little, and they were like crying on their way to soccer all the time, and they wanted to surf and skate, and so he's learned to be a surf dad and not a soccer dad.
We live in Hawaii. I should have figured, but
yeah,
it's the environment. But
yeah,
and that's the other thing. Where do you live? I mean, do you live in, where was a trip from? Florida? I guess it's like football mecca. Everybody plays football, just what you do. You know, here in Hawaii, there's a lot of surfing going on. But yeah, where you live might determine what you end up doing. If you live in Utah, you're gonna be near the mountains and be on a snowboard. Who knows?
Who knows? But give yourself grace. Figure it out as you go. Don't be too hard on yourself if you don't nail it the first time. That's okay. So moving right along.
Yeah. along with knowing your kid, I think you need to know yourself. So having a little self-check, looking at your motivations or your intentions. Maybe you want to say something about that?
I just think I've heard from enough people who are really frustrated maybe because they so want something for their kid, and again, maybe the kid's not interested, or maybe the kid's doing their best, but like their kid's not getting the playing time, or they're getting all frustrated with the coach, and like the parents are getting so worked up over things, taking it so personally, and it's like, is this about you or your kid? Are you trying to live out some dream you had when you were young, or are you really concerned about your kid? So I think just checking your own motives and figuring out why you're doing what you're doing, and if it's worth it, if it's reasonable.
Right. Yeah, I think your kids, like Monica's saying, can be an extension of you, or you think they are. And so their results on the playing field equal your results. So, you can get potentially too involved or too caught up in what's happening with your kid and his results on the field, whether he's making it or not, doing good on the team or not, scoring a goal or not, making the basket or not. And so know what's going on inside you, because there can be some unhealthy things that can happen between you and your kid if you're not checking that.
That's right. Yeah, and I think just being intentional about what you're doing. Like, is our kid involved in this because we want them to develop skills, to learn to work on a team, to grow, or are we doing this again to fulfill something in us? So good stuff.
Because like for you parents that were athletes, I think that's what's hard. Because if you were a good athlete and you had results and you got a lot of your self-worth and identity from sports as a kid, you're gonna be the one likely to fall into that trap, because
we don't know anything about that. Really.
Yeah, right. I've had to check myself on that. I've had to let go of like my own needs, wants, when it comes to sports for my kids. So, yeah, just know that. And
you're not alone.
And if you weren't a good athlete and now you want your kid to fulfill the thing that you never were able to pull off, so just be careful.
That's right. All right. Just one more thing, I think. It goes right along with it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what's reasonable, and just in the realm of keeping balance in life. I mean, there's times where maybe you've got multiple kids in the family, and it's not possible to have 3 kids playing 3 different sports at once, which some people try to pull off, and you've got one car to get them everywhere.
You're totally stressed out. Everything costs money, a lot of money.
Yeah, and then some sports or levels of sports can cost more, and it's not really a financially sound decision to be on a football team that costs $1,000, or something like that. I don't know how much it costs,
traveling
but
and everything.
Yeah, traveling and things like that, and they do fundraising, but there's a cost there in terms of time and energy you spend, and you've only got so much time in a day. And sports take up a lot of time. The practices and some of these sports, the world we're living in now, which we didn't really comment about, but sports has changed so much. The intensity, the commitment levels compared to I think when we were a kid, and this idea of a specialty athlete, like kids have to become like the next the great Olympic athlete when they're 8 years old or something like that. So there's a lot of investment, and so are you ready for that? Do you have the time for that? Some
of you
might.
That?
Yeah.
Do you even want it?
And does your kid have time for that, or do they want that kind of time? Maybe some of you do, but some of you don't. So you have to find the balance and maybe the level of commitment that's going to work for you and your kid.
That's right. Which I think brings us to the final kind of point, which is always my point, and that is to really have an open conversation with your spouse, with the family, and with the child especially. Ask the questions, find out what they really want, what are their goals, and what's going to work as a family. The more you talk about it, the more you check in. How are you doing? Sometimes there's bullying going on, or relationship with the coach. Just keep talking about things. Because it's really important that kids know they have a safe place to be honest and share what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. And we're kind of almost in the realm of like, do you jump into the pool or not with competitive sports? But you might already be in it, and that's why your kid's already in this whole thing that we're describing. And so, just checking in with your kid, being in tune with what's happening, because they may not share everything that's going on behind closed doors, in the sense of like when they're with their team huddle and how their coach is acting or treating them, or like Monica said, other kids treat them. They may not tell you all that stuff, and there's emotions and feelings, maybe how they feel about their own performance. Maybe they don't play as much as they want to, and that really has them down or is affecting their sense of self-worth. Lots of things that you probably wouldn't have in a conversation about unless you were intentional as a parent and brought it up, which is kind of, our mantra is being an intentional parent. So think of those topics, think about bringing them up, because they may not be brought up unless, you're intentional about it.
And it's good to remember that most of our kids are not going to be the next Olympic athlete.
Yes.
Most of our kids are going to need to find a job like everybody else. However, somebody watching this may have an Olympic athlete in their family. That may happen. Luke might be a pro surfer one day. We don't know. So you don't want to close that door.
Yeah.
If your kid's passionate, if they love it, support them, encourage them. But don't kill yourself
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah, too many parents think that their kid's going to get a college scholarship in whatever sport they're in, and it's few and far between. But yeah, not to shut the door, but enjoy the process, but keep all of these things in mind. It's about balance. It's about knowing your kid, knowing you, self-check, motivations.
You got this. You got this. We'd love to hear your comments. If you want to leave a question or a comment, share your experience maybe. I hope you'll subscribe to this YouTube channel. We hope to be a little more intentional about being back here. Lots of fun topics that we would enjoy talking about with you. So thanks for being here today, guys. Big aloha to you, and have a great day.